America is standing on the edge of an economic earthquake, and most people don't even realize it yet. Right now, behind closed doors in Washington, Ottawa, and Mexico City, officials are preparing for negotiations that could completely reshape the North American economy. This is not some boring political meeting that only affects diplomats and economists. This is personal. If these talks collapse, the impact could hit your grocery bill, your job, your car payment, even the price of basic products sitting in your home right now. And the craziest part? The entire system could begin unraveling with just one letter. Because buried deep inside the North American Trade Agreement is a clause that allows any country to walk away with only 6 months' notice. No giant court battle, no years of debate, just a formal warning, and the countdown begins. Now imagine that for a second. A trade system connecting nearly $2 trillion in business every single year suddenly entering survival mode. Factories panic. Investors panic. Supply chains freeze. Businesses start making emergency plans. And ordinary people end up paying the price. This isn't fear-mongering. This is the reality experts are quietly discussing right now. The trade agreement connecting the United States, Canada, and Mexico was supposed to bring stability to North America. It replaced NAFTA after years of political drama and tense negotiations. Leaders promised it would modernize trade, strengthen manufacturing, and protect workers across all 3 countries. For a while, it worked. Every single day, billions of dollars worth of goods cross North American borders almost seamlessly. Cars, food, steel, electronics, energy products, machinery. Everything moves through an incredibly interconnected system that most people never even think about. But now that system is under pressure like never before. And the reason can be summed up in one word: China. Over the past few years, Chinese companies have dramatically increased investments in Mexico. Massive electric vehicle factories, solar panel plants, electronics manufacturing, auto suppliers, industrial facilities. Billions of dollars are flowing into Mexican industry. From Mexico's perspective, this is fantastic news. More factories mean more jobs. More jobs mean stronger economic growth. Stronger growth means less poverty and more stability. But in Washington, alarm bells are ringing. American officials believe some Chinese companies are using Mexico as a backdoor into the U.S. market. Instead of paying high tariffs directly on Chinese-made products, companies can shift parts of production into Mexico and potentially gain easier access to American consumers under current trade rules. And suddenly, both Democrats and Republicans are finding rare common ground. They want tougher rules. They want stricter enforcement. And some voices inside Washington are even suggesting something far more extreme, threatening to leave the trade agreement entirely unless major changes happen. That possibility alone has businesses terrified, because uncertainty is poison for the economy. A factory manager doesn't know whether future shipments will face tariffs. A trucking company doesn't know if cross-border routes will remain profitable. A farmer doesn't know if foreign buyers will suddenly disappear. And when businesses lose certainty, they stop investing. That slowdown spreads fast. Hiring freezes begin. Expansion plans disappear. Emergency meetings start happening behind closed doors. And right now, many companies are already quietly preparing contingency plans. The auto industry may face the biggest shock of all. Most people assume cars are built in one place. But modern North American manufacturing doesn't work that way anymore. A single vehicle may cross borders 7 or 8 times before it's finally complete. An engine component could begin production in Mexico, travel to Michigan for machining, move to Ontario for assembly, then return to the United States for final installation. Every step depends on smooth, tariff-free movement across borders. If that system breaks, costs explode. Experts estimate some vehicles could suddenly become $7,000 to $10,000 more expensive because tariffs would pile up at every stage of production. Think about that. Families already struggling with inflation could walk into dealerships and see prices jump overnight. Demand drops. Sales collapse. Factories slow production. Layoffs begin. Entire communities depend on those jobs. And once factories close, reopening them becomes incredibly difficult. But cars are only part of the story. Agriculture could become another major casualty. American farmers rely heavily on exports to Canada and Mexico. Corn, soybeans, dairy, poultry. Billions of dollars worth of agricultural products move across those borders every year. Without special trade protections, those products instantly become more expensive compared to competitors from South America or Europe. And global markets are ruthless. Buyers won't stay loyal because they feel bad for American farmers. They'll buy from whoever offers lower prices. That reality terrifies farming communities already struggling with rising fuel costs, expensive equipment, labor shortages, and unpredictable weather. For some farms, another major economic shock could become the final straw. Meanwhile, Canada is preparing for battle too. And if history is any guide, Canada will not sit quietly if pressured by Washington. During previous trade disputes involving steel and aluminum tariffs, Canada responded aggressively with highly targeted retaliation. Kentucky bourbon, Florida orange juice, Wisconsin dairy products. Every item was carefully selected to pressure politically sensitive American regions. Canada understands economic leverage very well, and officials there are likely already preparing another retaliation strategy in case negotiations turn ugly again. But Canada also faces a major weakness. Nearly 75% of Canadian exports go directly to the United States. That gives Washington enormous leverage in negotiations because the American economy is much larger overall. Still, leverage cuts both ways. The United States also depends heavily on Canada and Mexico for industrial components, raw materials, and manufacturing support. 40% of imports coming from Canada are actually used by American factories themselves. If tariffs suddenly raise those costs, American businesses suffer too. That's why so many economists warn there are no clean winners in trade wars. Everybody gets hurt. The only question becomes who loses less. And behind the scenes, financial markets are already reacting nervously. Currencies fluctuate every time new trade threats appear in headlines. Investors are watching closely because uncertainty changes everything. Companies delay decisions. Markets become volatile. Businesses reduce risk. That fear alone can slow economic momentum long before any actual tariffs even begin. In many ways, the psychological impact may be just as dangerous as the economic one. Because once trust between trading partners starts collapsing, rebuilding it can take years, sometimes decades. And trust across North America is already under strain. Many Canadians feel bullied by Washington's aggressive tactics. Many Americans feel the system allowed foreign competitors to weaken domestic industries. Many Mexicans feel caught in the middle of a power struggle they cannot fully control. That tension creates a dangerous environment where political pressure can quickly override economic logic. One angry press conference, one leaked negotiation document, one surprise tariff announcement. That's all it takes to trigger panic. And ordinary people usually suffer first. Not billionaires. Not politicians. Workers. Families. Small business owners. The people least prepared for another economic crisis. That's why the next few months matter so much. July could become the turning point. That's when the official review process intensifies and negotiations move into the global spotlight. Every public statement will matter. Every rumor will move markets. Every political speech could shift investor confidence. If you start hearing phrases like fundamental overhaul, national economic security, or termination options, pay attention carefully. Those words signal escalating tensions behind the scenes. And if major corporations begin publicly warning about risks, you'll know the situation has become extremely serious. Because giant companies rarely speak out unless they believe danger is real. What makes this entire situation even scarier is how fragile modern supply chains truly are. Most people assume stores will stay stocked forever. They assume factories will keep operating normally. They assume goods will continue flowing across borders because that's how life has always worked. But global trade only functions when countries cooperate and trust each other enough to maintain stability. Once that trust weakens, cracks spread quickly. Businesses begin protecting themselves. Governments become more aggressive. Markets grow nervous. And suddenly the system everybody depended on no longer feels guaranteed. That's why this trade story matters so much. This is not just about tariffs or politicians arguing on television. This is about the invisible economic system supporting millions of everyday lives across North America. The truck driver crossing the border overnight. The factory worker building engines. The farmer selling crops. The small business owner trying to survive inflation. The family struggling to afford groceries. All of them are connected to decisions being negotiated right now behind closed doors. And nobody truly knows how this ends. Maybe cooler heads prevail, and a deal gets reached. Maybe tensions calm down. Or maybe political pressure pushes leaders into a dangerous economic fight neither side can fully control anymore. But one thing is absolutely certain. If the largest trade relationship in modern history begins breaking apart, the consequences will move faster than most people imagine. Prices rise. Factories slow down. Confidence disappears. And once economic fear spreads, reversing it becomes incredibly difficult. So pay attention to what happens over the next several months. Because while most people are distracted by headlines and political drama, one of the most important economic stories of the year is unfolding quietly in the background. And by the time the average person realizes how serious it is, the damage may already be starting. If you found this breakdown important, share this video with someone who works in manufacturing, farming, trucking, or any business connected to trade, because this affects far more people than the media is admitting right now. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive coverage on the stories shaping America's future.